Just before the video starts, I know everyone hates when YouTubers do this, but I have to thank you guys for the crazy support of my first video. I wasn't expecting to reach those numbers in a year, let alone a few days. I'll let you guys watch the video now. I hope you enjoy. Hi, how you doing? Tier lists are still a thing, right? People still do those. Well, it don't matter, I'm doing it anyway. Ranking My Little Pony villains. Not all of them, just the main ones. There were 2 tier lists I could have done for this video, but one of them had so many obscure villains like Apple Bloom's shadow. I don't know if you could call that a proper villain, as it was just Apple Bloom projecting her anxieties, right? Like, is that a villain? I don't know. I just want to warn you guys, I'm gonna be quite harsh on this tier list, although I don't put anything in F tier, but I don't know. You guys will probably disagree with me on some of the rankings. If you do, that's fine, just it's subjective after all. Now, on to the first ranking.
And now, you shall meet your doom!
Awizotle. He appears exclusively in Daring Do episodes, which isn't a bad thing, but it does kind of give the idea that he doesn't exist outside of Daring Do, even though we learn in Daring Don't that he is actually real and exists in Equestria. The main 6 never encounter him without Daring Do involved. In terms of personality and how he acts, I'd have to say he seems pretty stereotypical as a villain, very egotistical and menacing, which again is not bad, but not overly original or anything. His motives, which get revealed later, do make him more interesting, and show that he's trying to protect old artifacts and stop ponies like Daring or Caberon from stealing them, which kind of links to real life and the argument that stuff shouldn't be taken from its ancient sites to museums and stuff. I believe Awizotle is a real thing in Aztec mythology, but I can't comment on how similar the My Little Pony character is because I have no knowledge about Aztec mythology. Adding that all up, I think it'd be safe to put Awizotle in B tier to start us off.
I am shutting this school down!
Chancellor Nayy. I'm sorry to admit this to you guys, but I'm one of the School of Magic haters. Hate might be a bit of a strong word, but I just didn't enjoy the show as much once it got introduced. I'm sorry. Due to this, I'm naturally going to be slightly biased against villains after Season 8, so take that into account with everything I say, and again, it's all subjective. Now, Nayy is basically a posh, uptight pony supremacist, from what I remember, and didn't want the school to be attended by anything other than ponies. Now, I'm slightly confused, because he is the head of the Equestria Education Association, so we can assume Celestia had something to do with his appointment, or at least is aware of who he is. But it's shown to us in School Days, Part 2, that Celestia opposes his views. So, why is he the head of the education system in Equestria? Even if Equestria has only ponies in it, if the leaders don't agree with the head of education's ideals, then surely he should be kicked out of his role. Unless Equestria is corrupt or something, which for some reason I doubt. Sorry about that, went off on a bit of a tangent. But if you don't think into it too much, Nayy is easy to hate and root against, but compared to other premier or final villains, does not hold up. With all that, I'm gonna have to put him in C tier. Sorry to any fans of him.
I'm having too much fun!
Cozy Glow is an interesting character, as she's initially not shown as a villain, and is actually an ally to the Cute Mark Crusaders, until it's revealed that she is evil working with Tyrek, trying to bring him back. Basically, her whole character and personality that has been shown off so far is revealed to have been an act, and she actually is a lot different and more mysterious. Her motivation, of course, is to bring back Tyrek and bring him back to Equestria, so he can rule it, but is ultimately defeated and sent to Tartarus, which is basically hell, which, depending on your morals, could seem slightly too harsh for someone who's still in primary school. Honestly, pretty good villain, and more unexpected than others. She's less about raw strength and more about manipulation to get what she wants. Cozy Glow is going to be put safely in B tier for now, above Awizotle, although I might adjust her later.
Looks like we might be due for a big old storm of chaos.
The GOAT. Discord! I'm howling at the moon! Sorry about that. Happens every time I think about Discord. You know, it's crazy how many people don't realize that's a Brony song. Anyway, Discord. If you can't tell already, Discord is my favourite villain in My Little Pony. I'm not going to make you guys wait all the way till the end to see who I put at the top or anything like that. Discord is at the top. Now, why do I like Discord so much? Well, there's many reasons. It's not just that he's in Breaking Bad. First and foremost, his design. It's very unique. He's a special type of chimera called a Draconicus, which is part pony, part griffin, part dragon, part lion. Forgive me if I missed one of those animals out. And I really like it. His body being long and thin lets him move like a snake at certain points and makes him more distinguishable. Discord is set up as an incredibly powerful creature that can manipulate the world around him at will. Being the spirit of chaos, hence some of the lyrics of the song, like "I can't sit idly, no I can't move at all," being two conflicting statements, and sleeping in the middle of a summer afternoon, which is not a normal activity. The main reason I like Discord, however, is his actual character, his personality. Throughout the series, Discord's jokes land quite consistently, at least with me, and despite him being reformed in Season 3, he still commits acts ranging from somewhat annoying to completely evil, like helping Tyrek in Twilight's Kingdom, Part 1 and 2, and trying to bring every villain back disguised as Grogar, which, while he wasn't doing it to take over Equestria himself, rather as a test for Twilight, it was still a villainous act. Out of any of them, Discord also gets the second most screen time and dedicated episodes, next to Starlight, so we naturally get to know him the best. I personally prefer him to Starlight, so he's going to be top of S for me.
That's Dr. Caberon to you.
Dr. Caberon. He's a My Little Pony version of those Indiana Jones villains that have a whole team of people working with them to steal ancient treasures and that kind of thing for money. He's very greedy and only cares about himself and his loot. Despite all this, he's not very smart or brave. He's tricked by Daring Do and runs from Maui Zotel. Although, you can't blame him. I think most people would run from something that looks like Maui Zotel. There isn't as much to talk about when it comes to Caberon. I never personally saw him as much of an intimidating villain, as Daring always outsmarted or outplayed him, so I'm going to put him in D tier.
He's Flam, we're the world famous Flim Flam brothers.
Flim and Flam. I don't know if it's just me, but I wouldn't consider them villains per se, more like annoyances or nuisances. They never do anything as severe as some other villains, and make some pretty good music, you can't lie. That Cider song, it's kinda goated. The worst thing we ever see them do is in one of the alternate universes that Twilight sees, when Starlight does all that time stuff, where they industrialize the entirety of Equestria, which, yeah, that's very bad, but I wouldn't consider it canon, because, you know, it's an alternate universe that isn't actually real. They even help out the main six later on in the series, although I can't really use that as a point because Discord did the same thing. To be honest, I don't really know what else to say other than I just don't consider them as proper villains. You guys understand, right? It's not just me? Well, we're going to assume you do. I was going to put them lower, but the Super Sidey Squeezy 6000 song bumps them up to D.
I think you can beat that, Pee-wee?
Garble. He's Spike's only direct antagonist, and is the main antagonist in both of the episodes where Spike goes to Dragonland. He hates ponies and acts very similar to how you would imagine an anthropomorphic dragon to act. He's very annoying, in a good way, as in he's easy to root against and celebrate the defeat of. And he gets reformed and redeemed later in the series, as most antagonists do, but I remember him most for the first Dragonland episode, where he made quite a memorable impression. I'm going to place Garble in C tier, below Chancellor Nayy.
You may call me Grogar.
Grogar. This one's kind of confusing to rank, because it's not the real Grogar that we see in the main show appearance, it's Discord in disguise, so I'm not really sure how to rank him. I guess I'll just pretend he's his own thing. Grogar is definitely something of an ultimate villain, as he wants to unite all other villains to take over Equestria. He's also the oldest and saw Tyrek and Scorpan grow. For power and personality, I don't know, because I'm not sure how much of all of it was emulated by Discord. From what you can see in the show, Grogar is a bully who wants dominion over all. Pretty regular stuff. And the real Grogar had enough power to hand out to other villains, and each of them is as powerful as Celestia and Luna. Grogar's motives cannot be fairly judged either, because in his main appearance, his motives are Discord wanting to test Twilight and her ability to overrule Equestria, which I'm not sure the real Grogar would want to do. Taking all that into account, I'd have to place Grogar in B tier above Maui Zotel to be safe.
And I will destroy any pony who gets in my way!
King Sombra. I really like his design. The metal with the red and black, he's described as a dark unicorn, and that fits the description perfectly. In this initial debut, he's kept extremely mysterious and has very little speaking lines. His actions are very villainous, as he took over the Crystal Empire 1,000 years before the events of Friendship is Magic. And before being banished by Celestia, he put a curse over the Empire that it would not return until he did, so he could try and take over again. I can't put my finger on the exact thing about his presence in general, but it's so cool and memorable, despite his lack of lines. His later appearance with Grogar's Evil Alliance shows more of his personality and reveals that he's very overconfident and wants to take over Equestria solo. Personally, I prefer the way he's presented in his debut appearance in Season 3. I think after all that, I'm going to put Sombra in A. Again, I might adjust this later. Lightning Dust is another character that I don't think fully qualifies as a villain. She's the primary antagonist in the Wonderbolt Academy, and decides that she and Rainbow Dash are rivals for life in the washouts. Basically, what makes her bad is she's quite selfish and doesn't care about the harm that her stunts could cause people, which is why after getting kicked out of the Wonderbolts, she founds the washouts, which are comprised of ex-Wonderbolts and do not have nearly as many safety measures and do much more dangerous stunts. Despite Lightning being Dashy's friend in the Wonderbolts Academy, she doesn't show any compassion when she gets injured or when her tornado puts the rest of the main six in danger. So while she isn't a nice pony, I don't think she's in the same league as Tyrek or Chrysalis. That said, I think Lightning Dust fits nicely in D tier below Flim and Flam.
Power ponies! How kind of you to join us!
Maniac is the main antagonist of the Power Ponies, who are comic book characters. However, in the Season 4 episode Power Ponies, the main six get pulled into the comic and actually have to fight Maniac as the Power Ponies characters. He's a very fun villain, you know, an over-the-top comic book supervillain, and they're always fun to watch. She actually used to be normal, if a little power hungry, and she was the owner of a shampoo factory, but in an accident she fell into a vat of green liquid, which then gets electrocuted, causing her coat to turn purple and her mane to turn green. She also gains powers such as the ability to manipulate her mane completely and even be able to stretch it elastically. Also, she goes completely mad and becomes the arch nemesis to the Power Ponies. She actually only appears in one episode. Despite that, she's very memorable, and I think most people could easily remember who she is, even if they hadn't watched the show in a while. And the episode she was in was also a good and fun one. Despite her lack of screen time, I think Maniac goes nicely in B tier, below Cozy Glow, but above Aoizotul.
The night will last forever!
Nightmare Moon. The first villain in My Little Pony happens to be one of the best and memorable, and the show knows it, as there are countless callbacks to her throughout later seasons. She's the corrupted version of Princess Luna, who after becoming jealous of her sister Celestia, tries to make it forever night. However, Celestia traps her in the moon for 1,000 years. However, on the 1000th summer of the Summer Sun celebration, she returns and tries again to make it night forever. Her design is very iconic, being taller than her uncorrupted form, with armor inspired by the Canterlot Royal Guards. As I said before, she appears in one way or another in the majority of seasons. One that stands out is the Season 4 two-parter episode, Princess Twilight Sparkle. In that episode, we get a flashback to the moment where Luna originally transformed into Nightmare Moon and is banished to the moon by Celestia, which is a really cool scene to see, especially as it's not initially shown that it's a flashback, so we think that Luna is transforming again, before we realise at the same time as Twilight that it was in the past. I personally really like this villain, and I'm going to be putting Nightmare Moon in A tier, above Sombra, purely because I find the origin of Nightmare Moon more interesting.
Your pitiful attempt to imprison me has failed, Starsworm.
The Pony of Shadows, the main villain of Season 7. He was originally the founder of the Pillars of Old Equestria, but was outcast after a misunderstanding and struck a deal which caused him to be transformed into the Pony of Shadows, which is a little similar to Nightmare Moon's origin. He's eventually defeated and turned back into his other form by the main six and the Pillars. His design's pretty nice. I remember that that's what stuck out to me about him, because it's a really cool design, however not the most original origin story. Before his transformation he was a quiet and non-confrontational pony, but after he becomes the Pony of Shadows, he becomes a lot louder and more arrogant, being sure of himself and his power until his defeat. Twilight releases him from limbo along with the Pillars of Old Equestria, and long story short, he gets redeemed and turns back into his old self, called Stygian. He's a solid, if slightly unoriginal villain, and for that, he's going in B tier above Grogar because I think he looks cooler.
We will gain more power than we have ever dreamed of!
Queen Chrysalis. Chrysalis is another recognizable recurring villain, and is the leader of the Changelings. She's revealed first in a Cancelot wedding, where she pretends to be Princess Cadence, and upon her reveal attempts to take over Cancelot and in turn Equestria. She's very recognizable due to her decayed looking appearance, and unique powers of shapeshifting. She's eventually overthrown by the Changelings, who are revealed to be oppressed and actually be bright and colourful instead of dark and decayed. Chrysalis refuses to be reformed along with the rest of the Changelings. She leaves them and later tries to get revenge on Starlight, who originally inspired the idea of uprising to the Changelings, and makes evil copies of the main six. I'm pretty sure many other people will agree that Chrysalis is one of the best villains in the show and will not disagree with my ranking. Hopefully. Queen Chrysalis is going in S tier, below Discord.
Now you can spend the rest of your lives here, without your cutie marks.
Starlight Glimmer. Starlight's pretty well known as Twilight Sparkle's apprentice in later seasons, and most of her screen time is taken up in the position. I remember the time when Starlight was only a villain, first seen in the season 5 two-parter as the head of a village, where everyone has the same cutie mark, apart from her, secretly. Her goal is to keep everyone equal so no one can show off, as her friend when she was young got more attention of her because of his cutie mark and talent, so she disliked the idea of cutie marks and unique talents after that. I always remember this two-parter, and her other two-parter at the end of the season, where she goes back in time to stop Rainbow Dash from doing her Sonic Rainbow, which caused all the main six to meet in the first place. She sent Twilight and Spike to multiple alternate realities, which is really fun to watch, as many villains from past seasons get to be seen again as they took over in some of the alternate realities. I have to say, before her reform, Starlight was a pretty good villain, and the cutie map in particular is one of the most memorable episodes in the series for me. She's going to be put in A tier below King Sombra, because it seems that she cares more about harming Twilight than taking over Equestria or anything.
The staff belongs to me.
Oh, I didn't realize the movie was going to be on this tier list. Honestly, no filter or anything, I do not like the Storm King. He seemed like just a stereotypical Disney villain, and didn't really feel like a My Little Pony villain. He's also really forgettable, at least for me, because I honestly cannot remember what his motivations were, apart from the fact that it was probably to do with storms. Now I think about it, it was probably like, I want to cover the entire Equestria in storms, or something like that. His design's okay, but seems to be partly inspired by Tyrek. I don't remember him being nearly as intimidating or powerful as Tyrek, however. I do get that a movie villain can't be the same as a show villain, however I'm not going to use that as an excuse to him. If anyone who likes him is watching, please don't take offense by me placing him in C, above Nayy, because he does seem more imposing than Nayy, let's be honest.
How about we start with your complete and total surrender?
Now, Tempest Shadow is actually a decent villain. I don't hate the movie, I just don't like the main villain. Tempest is the first unicorn ever seen in the show with a broken horn, which makes her unique, and makes her magic chaotic and unstable. Even though she's the Storm King's second in command, she gave a much bigger impression on me, and was the villain I remembered from the film. At the end of the film, Twilight convinced her to help the main six take down the Storm King. So she gets reformed or redeemed. Her design excluding the broken horn is also very cool, especially her mane. Her real name is Fizzlepop Berry Twist, but took on another name when she began working for the Storm King. Overall, I think Tempest is a much better villain than the Storm King, who actually has an origin. Maybe the Storm King has an origin, I don't remember. So I'm going to be placing her in B tier, above Maniac, but below Cozy Glow.
I am Lord Tyrek.
Ah, finally. I've been talking about him all over the place. Tyrek, the lad himself. I don't know if it is in canon the most powerful villain, but he definitely feels like it. The amount of damage he does at the end of Season 4 is unrivaled by any other villain. Well, he destroyed the library, which had been a landmark for the series up until this point. I don't think anyone imagined that they'd destroy the library. And the defeat of Tyrek marked a new chapter in the show, with the creation of Twilight's castle and the destruction of the elements of harmony. Back when I was younger and watching the show, Tyrek was the villain that I found the most scary, which, to be fair, means nothing. Probably says more about me than it does about him. But still, it made me always remember Tyrek as the biggest villain in my head, even now. In terms of actual size, I don't know if he is the biggest, but I'm pretty sure he's the biggest in terms of actual size. Like, once he absorbed all the magic from Celestia, Luna, and Cadence. We can't forget about that awesome Dragon Ball-esque fight between Twilight and Tyrek. It was really fun to watch. I'm going to be putting Tyrek in S tier, above Chrysalis, but below Discord. Because despite Tyrek being more powerful and intimidating, Discord's personality makes him more of an interesting villain for me.
Come and witness the amazing magic of the great and powerful Trixie!
Trixie Lulamoon. She's a very popular character, and I don't want to offend anyone with this ranking. Trixie's first appearance is not very villainous, as she's just a show pony showing off her talent, which is literally how she pays the bills. She may be showing off, but most show people do that anyway. It's how they get people to watch their show. Her second appearance, where she has an old, evil unicorn amulet that gives her lots more power, makes her more villainous and a fairer adversary for Twilight. Yeah, she's more of a villain there. But not in her first appearance. It was unexpected when Starlight tried to find a friend and ended up with Trixie, but her role as an antagonist largely ended there. So even though she's not much of a villain, I'm going to put her in B tier above Arizoto, because she is fun to watch, and her episode's pretty good. Also, I don't want to offend anyone. Bit longer of a video than my last one. I hope that wasn't a problem. Tell me in the comments if you disagree with any of my rankings. I mean, you probably will. Or if there's an My Little Pony related topic you want me to make a video on next. And with that, I've been Monodash, and I hope to see you soon.